With a quick internet search, you can find a dozen different get-rich-quick schemes and business ventures that claim you need no money to get started. One of the strategies you might have come across is called wholesaling real estate, and in today's video, I want to break it down and determine whether the claims of this being a no money needed strategy are really true. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new here, my name is Lili, and this is where I document my real estate investing journey and bring you guys along with me. Over the last few months, I've been making videos about the different wholesale deals that I've been able to do. And in these videos, I like to break down how I found the deal, how I ran the numbers, how I found a cash buyer, and of course, how much money I made. But a common question that I get and that I want to answer today is how much money does it take to get started? I could make this a super short video and say that technically you can get started with $0, but that's a big technicality. Instead, I want to dive into what do people actually mean when they say you can wholesale with no money, how much money have I spent, and then what recommendations do I have for you if you have $100 to spend, $500, or $1,000 or more to go towards your wholesaling budget. My goal is to make this channel the best place to get high quality, in-depth, free content, and if you agree, the best way to let me know and to let the YouTube algorithm know is to change the color of the like button. It would tell me that you guys appreciate the hours of work that go into making these videos, and it'll tell YouTube to share this video with more people so that our community can continue to grow. So with that said, thank you for hitting that thumbs up and let's get started. Wholesaling real estate is the idea of getting a property under contract, and instead of purchasing that property, you actually sell your contract to a cash buyer investor and make the difference. This entire process would start with you finding a motivated seller. And let's just imagine that this person owns a house that is in need of a lot of repairs, and they don't want to make their repairs themselves, so they agree to sell you the property for $100,000. Now, maybe you don't have $100,000, but that's okay. When you're wholesaling real estate, you're gonna go under contract to buy that property, and between the time from that day and the closing day, when it's actually time to show up with the cash, you're going to sell your contract to a cash buyer. So let's say you have the contract for $100,000, you would find a cash buyer and sell them your contract for $110,000. So on closing day, the seller gets their $100,000, you get $10,000, and your cash buyer gets the property and gets to go flip it or renovate it or do whatever they're going to do to make their profit. So ideally, everyone can leave happy and you put $0 into the deal. So in its simplest sense, you can wholesale with no money. But what can be misleading is that in order to consistently do deals, it's going to be very tough to put no money into your business. So you might get your first deal or maybe even two through just pure hustle, but I recommend that once you get your first assignment check, you reinvest some of that into your business to make it easier and quicker for you to get your next deal. But if you're just getting started and you truly want to spend $0, here's how that might play out. You'll first need to find a motivated seller that is off market. This means that they're not trying to sell their house on a site like Redfin or Zillow. That would be on market, and there are some difficulties that come into play with that, which we'll talk about a little later in this video. One of the best ways to find motivated sellers off market is to drive for dollars. And this is where you literally hop in your car and you drive around, and you're looking for properties that are distressed or abandoned or have some indication that the owner might be willing to sell it. There are apps like Propstream and Deal Machine that let you log all of the properties that you want to keep track of, and both of those apps do have free trials that I'll link for you in the description below. So use the free trial, or if you're just going straight, no money involved, take a notebook with you, keep track of the addresses, or write them down in your phone. Once you've got a list of properties, this is when it's time to contact the homeowners and see if they're interested in selling. Typically, you would do something called skip tracing, where you would use a site like Propstream to pay for the contact information of those homeowners so that you can reach out to them and see if they want to sell. And while skip tracing is not expensive at all, it does cost something. So if you really want to keep this to $0, you basically have to door knock, which means you found a property that you think the homeowner might be willing to sell, walk up to the door, knock on it, and ask them. Now, in the age of the illness that has dominated our lives for the past year, this may not be the best idea, and you also have to consider the fact that many people don't open their door for strangers, so do this at your own risk. If you don't like the driving for dollars or walking for dollars strategy if you don't have a car, then something else that you might want to try to get a literal $0 down deal is to find motivated sellers on a site like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or Zillow for sale by owner leads. These are free sites where you can reach out to people who have their house listed for sale and you can have a conversation with them. You can also try reaching out to people who have their house listed for rent and see if they'd be willing to sell it instead. And typically, if you're looking at a rental unit that looks freshly remodeled or really nice, you're probably not gonna have much luck. But if it's a little bit outdated or not very well taken care of, then the person might be a tired landlord and willing to get it off of their hands. Once you find someone who's willing to sell, that's when you move on to step 2 of the wholesaling process, and that's going under contract to buy the property for your agreed upon price. At this point, some people choose to disclose to the homeowner that they're a wholesaler and that they don't have the money to buy the property, but that they'll be partnering with the person who does. And some people choose not to disclose and feel like as long as they abide by what's going on in the contract and they keep everything legal, they don't have to tell the seller every single detail. What I say is this: I choose to disclose to the homeowner that I'm not the only investor involved and that I'm working with a team that is going to abide by the contract and get them the money that we agreed upon. And when you're making your own decision, you should also consider what your local laws are and whether or not you're a real estate agent, because there are some different requirements there. If you want to know why some states are making wholesaling illegal, you can check out this video right here. And if you want to see my recommendation on how you can remain an ethical wholesaler, check out part 2 of that video right here. Now, once you and the seller agree on a price and go under contract, remember that you don't have to go to the bank on that day and buy the property, but you may need something called earnest money. So I'll link to this video right here to give you a more in-depth look in earnest money, but basically this is you putting your money where your mouth is and saying, I will abide by the terms that we agreed upon in this contract. Now, earnest money can be anywhere from $1 to 1% of the purchase price. And while I recommend that you put down at least something to help make your contract official, with an off-market deal where it's just you and the homeowner, the amount of earnest money is completely negotiable. So if both of you agree to $0 of earnest money, then you've got a $0 deal. Now, this won't be possible with those on-market deals that we talked about earlier because there are real estate agents involved, but we'll get into that a little bit later in this video. So once you've got the signed contract with the seller, step 3 and 4 are actually a lot simpler and move a lot quicker. Step 3 is to find a cash buyer. And in this video, I talk about different ways that you can find cash buyers, but the best free way is to go into your local Facebook investing groups or to go onto Craigslist, post some details about your deal, and start having conversation with cash buyers who might be interested. Once you've got a buyer who wants the deal, you'll go under contract with them and use something called an assignment contract. This assignment contract lets them buy your original contract from you. So if your original contract between you and the homeowner is for $100,000 and your assignment contract says $110,000, you'd make a $10,000 assignment fee. Step 4 happens on the day of closing when your cash buyer actually shows up to the title company with the $110,000 of cash. The title company will take care of all of the legal paperwork and you'll get your $10,000 assignment check. And also a recommendation I have for you is that when you go under contract with your cash buyer, make sure that they put down earnest money as well to cover your earnest money, and that way you'll get your $10,000 assignment check back and any earnest money that you put down in the beginning of the deal. If you want to know more details about how to find a cash buyer, check out this video right here. And if you want a more step-by-step outline of the entire wholesaling process, check out this video right here. So it is technically possible to do a wholesale deal with $0 down, but it's really hard to find motivated sellers by just scrolling through Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. And so while you might get lucky for 1 or 2 deals, I wouldn't recommend you trying to consistently do deals every single month in this way. So instead, let's break down what you should do if you have $100 to spend, $500, or $1,000 or more. And I'll also share with you guys what I spent to get started. So if your budget is $100 to get your first wholesale deal, I recommend you start driving for dollars with an app like Propstream or Deal Machine. I've got links to both of those programs in the description below, and they both come with free trials. So take advantage of the free trial, drive for dollars as much as you can, and build up a list of all of the distressed or abandoned properties in your area. Once you have your list of properties, you're going to need to skip trace it. And skip tracing is when you pay a small amount to get the contact information of all of the homeowners on that list. With Propstream, you can skip trace for 12 cents each, and that's all you'll pay during your free trial. But once your trial ends, Propstream does have a monthly subscription, which is $97 a month. And while I truly do think this subscription is worth it, it might not be the best bet if you only have $100 to spend. So I would do my driving for dollars and my skip tracing within my free trial if I was going to go that route. If you did that and you wanted to spend your entire $100, you could get 833 properties for about $99. If you don't want to use Propstream or you've already used your free trial, you could use a service like Batch Skip Trace Tracing, and while they don't have a monthly membership, their Skip Tracing costs 20 cents each, so that would get you about 500 properties with your $100. I've got a link to both of those in the description below for you. Once you've spent your $100, it's time to start cold calling. And if you want to see my very first day of cold calling, you can check out this video right here. And yes, you will get cussed out. Yes, you will get hung up on, but hopefully there is a motivated seller within your list who is willing to accept your cash offer and won't ask you to put down earnest money. Then you've got to get out there and hustle to find a cash buyer and a title company to handle your deal. And again, I've got a ton of helpful videos on this channel that can assist you on these steps. You can check out this one right here to help you find a wholesaler-friendly title company to handle all of your deals. Now, if you've got a budget of about $500, you've got a little bit more wiggle room. You could skip trace and cold call more properties, so that gives you a better chance of finding a motivated seller because you've got a bigger list. Rather than driving for dollars, you could decide to just go ahead and buy a list from a service like Propstream and then cold call it. The reason I didn't suggest buying a list if you have just $100 is because the same way you can buy a list, so can every other wholesaler in your market, which means those people are going to have been cold called and received other forms of marketing, probably from everyone else in your market, which means there's more competition and you'll need to buy a bigger list to account for that and try to find someone who's actually willing to sell now. Which means you'll probably have to buy a bigger list to account for that to actually find a motivated seller in that bunch. At least your driving for dollars list is unique to the properties that you yourself identified, and so theoretically there should be less competition. But if you don't have a car or you don't want to drive for dollars, I've got this video right here to help you identify which list you should pull, like the tired landlord list and the expired listings list. You could also get in contact with homeowners in other ways, like sending them a postcard, a text message blast, or a ringless voicemail. All of these methods have different regulations and rules that you have to observe, as well as different prices, but they're all more expensive than just skip tracing and cold calling, so it depends on your budget. Either way, a $500 budget can help you contact more homeowners, or you can contact the same amount of homeowners and leave some of that money aside to use for earnest money when you get an offer accepted. The amount of earnest money is negotiable, but it can be a red flag to a seller if you offer nothing. So even just setting aside $100, $200, or $300 out of your budget may help you get more offers accepted. Another strategy you could use with a $500 budget is to target on-market properties. This is a strategy I've used and that I've made over $30,000 with in just a couple of months. The biggest hurdle with wholesaling on-market properties, aka the ones listed on Redfin or Zillow, is that there's a real estate agent involved, and this usually means two things: a proof of funds letter and earnest money deposit. Check out this video right here to see how you can get a proof of funds letter, and believe me when I say the proof of funds is not your biggest obstacle. The bigger barrier is usually earnest money. When you're offering to buy a property that's on market, the real estate agent is usually going to expect about 1% of the purchase price. So if the property is $50,000, they would want $500. If it's $100,000, they would want somewhere around $1,000. But this is negotiable. So rather than paying for skip tracing and to market to off-market properties, you could take your $500 and split that between $100 or $200 for a proof of funds letter, and then set aside $300 or $400 for your earnest money deposit. Depending on what market you're investing in, this might not meet the 1% rule, but at least it's something, and you don't need to pay it until you actually get an offer accepted, so you could be saving up in the background while you're getting better at everything. And if you want to see a video about how I did a deal in just 24 hours and actually had my cash buyer put down earnest money for me, check out this video right here. Another thing to keep in mind with on-market wholesaling is that real estate agents are real estate professionals, and so it's a chance to practice your phone confidence using the correct real estate terminology and just overall sounding like you know what you're talking about. In my opinion, this is all about practice, and building up these phone skills will help you in the future, whether you decide to target on-market or off-market properties, but at least making these calls to real estate agents and practicing is free. If you want to see a video of me doing just that, check out this video right here. So with $500, it's really a toss-up between whether you want to target off-market properties and pay for contact information, or if you want to target on-market properties and pay for something like proof of funds and earnest money. If you've got $1,000 or more, my recommendation is that you go for those on-market properties. Everyone is different and every market is different, but in my experience and in the experience of people that I've helped get their first wholesale deal, on market is quicker and easier in a lot of ways. When you target off-market properties, you spend money first, then have the conversation with them and see if they're interested in selling. Sure, it might be only 12 or 20 cents per person, but when you're targeting off-market properties, it takes a lot of phone calls and a lot of conversations to find a deal, and over 100 or 1,000 people, that can add up. Whereas with on-market, you already know that the homeowner wants to sell the house, and it's free to call up the real estate agent, and once you get your proof of funds letter, it's free to make as many offers as you want. Putting down earnest money only comes into the picture once you get an offer accepted, and even then, it's refunded to you once you get your assignment check. For myself, I initially spent about $200 to get my proof of funds letter and put down $500 on earnest money once I got an offer accepted. A few weeks after that, I made $6,000 as an assignment fee on that deal and got back my $500 earnest money. Since then, I actually figured out how to get free proof of funds letters directly from my cash buyer, and it's a technique that I teach during my 5-day beginners bootcamp on Zoom. This is a week-long opportunity for you, me, and a small group of other investors to hop onto a Zoom call each night for 5 days, an hour and a half a night, and walk through the entire on-market wholesaling process. This means from choosing a market and finding deals to analyzing properties by finding the ARV and estimating the rehab, all the way through to getting proof of funds letters, finding cash buyers, and everything that you'll need to start consistently doing deals every month. If that's something that you're interested in, I'll leave a link with all the details in the description below. Spots are limited, so use that link to see when the next bootcamp starts and to reserve your spot. This moves me into my next point, which is that if you have $1,000 or more, you may want to invest in some mentorship. This is something that I did, and there are plenty of people out there with the knowledge and experience that can help you get more deals quicker and without making the mistakes that you might if you didn't have their guidance. But remember, there's always a trade-off. You've got to give value to get value. So if you're looking for a mentor, just remember that. And if that's something you're not interested in, Google is your best friend. There is so much information out there. You just have to take the initiative and go find it and piece it together. And if you want it to be already pieced together in a nice package and get all of your individual questions answered, then maybe mentorship is something that you want to look for. So at the end of the day, while it is possible to do a deal with just $0 down, it's really hard, and it's not the best way to scale your business and start consistently doing deals every month. If you want to do that, invest in yourself. And if you know that you have the work ethic and you're going to work to gain the knowledge you need, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. So with that said, let me know in the comments what strategies you're going to be using. And of course, I will link to a bunch of different videos that can help you on your journey. And until next time, thanks for watching.